They say power protects you. But what happens when power blinds those who hold it? Jessica Carter knew all too well the sharp sting of invisible walls. Walls built from prejudice, assumptions, and cold indifference. That morning, she walked into Brightwell Enterprises not as a visitor, but as a potential partner, an equal. Yet the moment she stepped into the lobby, she was met with silence and suspicion. A receptionist's cold gaze, a dismissive whisper, a hand grabbing her sleeve. In that instant, Jessica was not a CEO, she was an unwelcome shadow, a reminder of a world still failing to see her worth. But beneath her calm exterior, a fire ignited, a vow that this insult would not go unanswered. This was not just a moment of humiliation. It was the first crack in a towering empire built on arrogance and denial. Jessica Carter would not walk away broken. She would return as the force that shatters the walls of prejudice and rebuilds a future where respect is not a privilege, but a right. This is the story of that day, and the battle that followed, where power, justice, and change collided. Jessica Carter stepped into the Brightwell Enterprises building with a quiet confidence. Her charcoal cashmere sweater was simple, yet elegant, speaking volumes without saying a word. She moved with a grace that came from years of commanding boardrooms, yet today she was just another visitor in a crowded city. The lobby was bright, the morning sunlight streaming through glass walls and reflecting off polished marble. It was a space designed to impress, powerful, successful. But beneath that sheen, Jessica felt the cold weight of unseen eyes. They flickered over her, hesitant, curious, and most painfully dismissive. Ahead of her, a man in a tailored suit was greeted warmly by the receptionist. Smiles and polite nods. Then it was Jessica's turn. Ashley Monroe, the young receptionist with icy blue eyes and perfectly styled blonde hair, barely looked up from her phone. When she did, her gaze swept Jessica from head to toe, a flicker of disdain crossing her face. "Name?" Ashley asked, voice flat. "Jessica Carter," she replied, calm and steady. "I have an appointment with Mr. Richard Lawson at 9. Ashley snorted, barely hiding her contempt. "There's no appointment under that name. Deliveries go around the back. People like you don't use the front door." The words landed like a punch. Jessica's eyes flickered with controlled fire, but she kept her voice even. "I'm here for a business meeting. Please check the schedule again." Ashley pretended to type, fingers barely touching the keys. "Nope, no Jessica Carter." Jessica's heart tightened, but her face remained composed. Before she could speak again, Ashley grabbed her sleeve sharply. "I told you no appointment. Leave now or I'll call security." Time seemed to slow. Jessica looked down at the hand on her sleeve, then met Ashley's cold stare. "Remove your hand." Ashley recoiled, then shouted for security. Within seconds, 2 guards appeared, gripping Jessica's arms firmly. She didn't resist. Her gaze stayed steady, full of pride and quiet strength as they began escorting her out. From the executive elevator, Mark Reynolds watched with a smirk. He recognized Jessica immediately but chose silence, savoring the scene unfolding before him. On the mezzanine above, Vanessa Lewis gripped the railing tightly. Her chest ached, her eyes burning with rage and helplessness. She knew that feeling too well, the sting of being unseen, unheard. But she also knew the price of speaking up. Jessica was pushed out into the street, her calm gaze sweeping over the Brightwell logo. A brief, cold smile flickered across her lips. She pulled out her phone, pressed a button, and spoke with deadly calm. "Execute Plan B. Cancel the deal immediately." With each step away from the building, Jessica's resolve hardened. This was no ordinary setback. It was the spark that would ignite a reckoning. Inside, Ashley returned to her desk, smug and unaware. "People like that think they're important," she whispered to a colleague. "They don't know their place." But power was shifting. Jessica Carter was no mere visitor, and the battle had just begun. Mark Reynolds stepped into the sleek conference room, his expression unreadable. Around the polished table, the tension was thick. Richard Lawson's face was pale, eyes sharp with frustration. "Can someone explain what just happened this morning?" Richard demanded, voice edged with panic. "Why did Carter Tech pull out of the deal so suddenly?" Mark leaned back, arms crossed, offering a nonchalant shrug. Strange, isn't it? I saw Miss Carter in the lobby, but no one could confirm her appointment. Richard's secretary nodded nervously. The receptionist refused to let her in. She said there was no record. Richard slammed his fist on the table. This is a disaster. Carter Tech was our last hope. Mark's cold gaze swept the room. Maybe it's time to rethink who's running this company. The room fell silent. Across the office, Vanessa Lewis sat quietly, her heart pounding. She had witnessed the morning's humiliation from the mezzanine, frozen by fear. But her mind raced. This wasn't just an accident. It was a symptom of a toxic culture, one she had seen for years. Ashley Monroe, the receptionist at the center of the storm, sat alone in a small office, replaying the morning in her mind. Pride and doubt warred inside her. Had she done the right thing, or had arrogance blinded her? Back in the conference room, Richard paced. We need damage control now, Mark. I want a full report on what went wrong. Mark smiled thinly. Of course, Richard. We'll get to the bottom of this. But deep down, Mark was calculating his next move. The chaos was his opportunity. The perfect moment to weaken Richard's grip on the company. Vanessa's phone buzzed quietly. A message from Carter Tech, an invitation. A chance to escape this poisoned place. Her fingers trembled as she read the words. A fresh start. But for now, she remained silent, watching, waiting. The war for Brightwell Enterprises had just begun. The news broke like a storm. Carter Tech's withdrawal from Brightwell sent shockwaves through the tech industry. Headlines screamed of internal chaos, discrimination, and corporate collapse. Brightwell's stock plummeted, tumbling hundreds of millions in value within hours. Investors panicked, selling shares in a frenzy. The once vibrant lobby now echoed with whispers of fear and uncertainty. Inside Brightwell, the atmosphere was suffocating. Richard Lawson sat at his desk, his hands trembling as calls flooded in, shareholders demanding answers, clients canceling contracts. Mark Reynolds remained composed, but even he couldn't ignore the storm he had unleashed. The secret emails linking him to Nexus Tech had surfaced, and whispers of industrial espionage began to swirl. In a quiet corner, Vanessa Lewis received the news with a heavy heart. This was the collapse she had feared, the breaking point for a company long poisoned by prejudice and power struggles. Across town, Ashley Monroe faced her own unraveling. Jobless and isolated, the consequences of her actions closed in. Friends distanced themselves, and job interviews ended with cold rejections. The weight of public scrutiny crushed her. Social media was unforgiving, painting her as the symbol of arrogance and racism. Her world shrank to the walls of a small, lonely apartment. Meanwhile, Richard scrambled to contain the damage. Emergency meetings convened, plans hastily drawn to salvage what remained. But the foundation was cracked, too deep to repair overnight. Mark's confidence began to waver as investigators started asking questions. The power he had sought now felt like chains tightening around him. Vanessa stared out her office window, the city sprawling beneath her, uncertain but determined. Change was inevitable. Brightwell Enterprises was crumbling, but from its ruins, new stories were waiting to be written. Vanessa Lewis stepped into the sleek, sunlit offices of Carter Tech, a place alive with quiet energy and forward momentum. The air smelled of new beginnings, crisp and promising. Jessica Carter greeted her personally, eyes bright with trust and determination. Vanessa, we've been watching your work. I believe you're exactly who we need to lead our cybersecurity division. Vanessa's heart raced, a mix of disbelief and hope swelling inside her. This was more than a job offer. It was a chance to rebuild, to prove her worth beyond the shadows of Brightwell. Meanwhile, Ashley Monroe's world had shrunk to the cold glow of her phone's screen and the endless rejections that followed her name. Once confident, she now navigated a sea of isolation and regret. But even in despair, Ashley sensed a flicker of something new, an opportunity to make amends, to understand the pain she had once inflicted on others. At Carter Tech, Jessica and Vanessa began to weave a new vision, one where talent and integrity mattered more than color or background. Policies were drafted, teams formed, and hope rekindled. Vanessa's first days were a whirlwind of meetings, strategy sessions, and quiet moments of reflection. She knew the road ahead would be difficult, but she was ready to face it. Jessica's calm resolve became a guiding light. We won't just build technology here, we'll build a culture, one that refuses to tolerate prejudice. Ashley, in her solitude, took tentative steps toward change, volunteering at community centers, listening, learning. The contrast was stark, one woman rising, another seeking redemption. But both were tied by a shared thread of transformation. In that moment, the future began to shift, fragile yet filled with promise. The seeds of a new era were sown, ready to grow beyond the ashes of the past. Jessica Carter stood before the towering Brightwell building, now a symbol of a painful past. The purchase was complete, a statement made not with words but with action. Vanessa Lewis stood beside her, eyes shining with a mix of pride and determination. "This will be more than a building," Jessica said softly. "It will be a beacon, a place where innovation meets justice." Plans for the Carter Center for Innovation took shape, a space designed to nurture talent, regardless of background, a sanctuary for ideas and equality. The day of the groundbreaking ceremony arrived under a clear sky. Community leaders, young innovators, and media gathered, drawn by the promise of change. Vanessa stepped up to the podium, voice steady but filled with emotion. "Today, we reclaim not just a building, but a future, one where every voice is heard, every talent recognized." The crowd erupted in applause. Cameras flashed, capturing the moment where hope was born anew. Meanwhile, Ashley Monroe walked past the construction site, her gaze fixed on the rising structure. A pang of regret mixed with understanding settled deep inside her. This was the consequence of her past, a reminder of the cost of prejudice and arrogance. Back inside, Jessica and Vanessa mapped out their mission: programs to train minority communities, initiatives to foster inclusion, and a culture built on respect. Vanessa felt the weight of responsibility but welcomed it. "We're not just building technology," she said. "We're building a legacy." The center was more than bricks and mortar. It was a symbol of rebirth, resilience, and the power of change. From ashes to opportunity, the journey was just beginning. Vanessa Lewis sat at the head of the conference table, surrounded by a team of experts. The air buzzed with ideas and determination as they tackled the AI cybersecurity project, an ambitious endeavor worth billions. Jessica Carter watched from the sidelines, pride evident in her calm gaze. She knew this was more than technology. It was a fight for equity and opportunity. Vanessa faced challenges, skepticism, pressure, and the weight of expectations. But with every obstacle, she grew stronger, proving her leadership and vision. Meanwhile, Ashley Monroe found purpose in community service. Helping those who had faced discrimination, she began to understand the depth of pain her arrogance had caused. Mark Reynolds' world crumbled. Federal agents raided his home, uncovering evidence of industrial espionage. His dreams of power shattered into dust. Back at Carter Tech, Jessica and Vanessa celebrated small victories: a successful prototype, a new partnership, a young mentee's breakthrough. The Carter Center for Innovation became a beacon, attracting talent and fostering diversity in ways the industry had never seen. Jessica's advocacy reached beyond the boardroom. She spoke at conferences, inspired legislation, and challenged the status quo. Vanessa's rise symbolized the promise of change, a leader born from adversity, shaping a fairer future. Ashley's journey was slower, marked by reflection and hard-earned humility. But for the first time in years, hope stirred in her heart. Together, their stories intertwined, a tapestry of redemption, progress, and the relentless pursuit of justice. The battle was far from over, but the tide had turned. Jessica Carter stood before a packed auditorium, her voice steady and clear. "We cannot change the past, but we can create a future where opportunity is not limited by race or background." The crowd erupted in applause, energized by her vision for a tech industry grounded in equality and justice. At the Capitol, Jessica met with lawmakers, pushing for policies that would expand access to tech education and funding for minority entrepreneurs. Vanessa Lewis traveled the country, speaking at universities and conferences, inspiring young people to pursue their dreams against all odds. The Carter Center for Innovation flourished, becoming a hub for creativity and inclusion, attracting diverse talents from across the nation. Ashley Monroe, once isolated and shunned, found her place volunteering with organizations supported by the center, slowly rebuilding her life. Jessica's efforts sparked a movement, igniting conversations and changes across corporations and communities. The media hailed Carter Tech as a model of social responsibility and innovation. Vanessa's leadership was recognized with awards and invitations to global forums. Despite the successes, challenges remained, old biases lingered, and the fight for true equality continued. But hope was alive, carried forward by the countless lives touched by their work. Together, Jessica and Vanessa were not just changing a company, they were changing a culture, proving that progress was possible. Their legacy was no longer just about technology, but about humanity and justice. Richard Lawson sat alone in his small country home, the quiet broken only by the rustling of wind through the trees. The glow of his laptop illuminated his weary face as memories of Brightwell haunted him like shadows. He had lost more than a company. He had lost trust, respect, and his place in the world he once ruled. The weight of neglect and ignorance pressed heavily on his soul. Miles away, Mark Reynolds sat in a sparse apartment, staring blankly at the television screen. News reports chronicled the rise of Carter Tech and the Carter Center for Innovation, symbols of everything he had tried to destroy. His ambitions, once grand and ruthless, had crumbled into isolation and regret. The price of betrayal was loneliness. Ashley Monroe navigated the long nights at a customer service center, the sting of angry voices a constant reminder of the pain she had caused. Her past followed her like a ghost, but she fought to keep moving forward. Vanessa Lewis, now a respected leader, faced new pressures, balancing innovation with advocacy, carrying the hopes of those she represented. Jessica Carter remained a pillar of strength, her vision unwavering even as challenges persisted. She understood that change was a journey, not a destination. Each of them wrestled with their pasts, their choices echoing in their lives. But in the quiet moments, beneath the weight of loss and hope, a new understanding emerged. That true power was found in integrity, humility, and the courage to change. Their stories intertwined, a testament to the complexity of human ambition and redemption. The Carter Center for Innovation buzzed with life as hundreds gathered for the annual celebration. The energy was electric, young innovators, community leaders, and supporters united in purpose. Jessica Carter took the stage, her voice resonant with pride. This is more than a center. It's a symbol of what we can achieve when we believe in fairness and opportunity for all. Vanessa Lewis stood nearby, watching the faces of those they had helped, eyes bright with hope and determination. Among the crowd, Ashley Monroe listened quietly. She had come to witness a new beginning, a chance to heal the wounds she had once caused. The event was filled with stories, tales of struggle, triumph, and the power of second chances. Every word echoed the center's mission to uplift and inspire. Jessica and Vanessa shared a look, one of accomplishment and resolve. Their journey had been long, filled with setbacks and victories. The future stretched before them, unwritten, full of possibility. As the sun set, the rooftop glowed softly. Jessica and Vanessa stood side by side, gazing over the city that had witnessed their struggle and success. "This is just the beginning," Jessica whispered. "Our work will ripple through generations." Vanessa smiled, her heart full. "And we'll be here, guiding the way." Together, they embraced the promise of tomorrow, a future built on justice, innovation, and hope. Jessica Carter stood on the rooftop, the city lights stretching endlessly before her. The cool night air whispered of possibility and change. Vanessa joined her, the two women silent for a moment, sharing the weight and wonder of their journey. Jessica broke the silence. "True power isn't about revenge or defeating others. It's about transforming pain into purpose." Vanessa nodded. "We've built more than a company. We've built a movement, one that honors integrity and gives voice to the unheard." The city below pulsed with life, each light a story, a dream waiting to be realized. Jessica's gaze was steady, filled with hope. "We are not limited by the past, by prejudice, or by injustice. We always have the power to choose differently. Vanessa smiled softly. The future belongs to those who dare to build it with courage and compassion. Together, they looked toward the horizon, ready for whatever came next. Their legacy was clear, one of resilience, fairness, and unyielding hope. And as the night deepened, the city carried their message, a beacon shining bright, lighting the way for generations to come.